All right, we are officially recording. Welcome, everyone. My name is Roxy Deer. I am the Director of Professional Development for the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'm so excited to have all of you here today for our monthly business education luncheon virtually. Today, we're going to be talking about Marketing 101, and we'll be hearing from Peggy Sinova from the Eastern Indiana Small Business Development Corporation. As you will see in the chat box, there is a link to a Google Doc. That document will be used today during the presentation. If you can't print it out and would like to just follow along with your computer, that's absolutely okay. We just recommend that you open it up to use today. Before we get started, I'm going to give a few chamber updates. We've got lots of events going on, and we want to make sure that you take advantage of those. So before we begin, we'd love to know who's here and in the room. So in the chat box, enter your name, where you work, and what you love about summer. I'm so excited that it's summer and that we can finally get outside and enjoy the weather. And this will also help Peggy know who's here today and what businesses are being represented. So go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat box. The chat box should be a box down on your screen. It just says chat and you can open it. Hi, Mary from Hand in Hand Adult Daycare Center. Judy Porter's here. Oh, boating, that sounds amazing. Lisa's here from Centerstone. Jenna Hampton, hi Jenna. Melissa Davis. We have lots of people jumping on now. Continue introducing yourselves in the chat box. Hi Madeline, how are you?
Hey, I'm good.
So we will go ahead and get started with some chamber updates. A week from tomorrow will be our Chamber Golf Classic. As many of you know, this is one of the largest golf tournaments in Wayne County. We still have a few team spots left, and we have lots of sponsorship opportunities left. So if you have not signed up yet, please make sure you do. This is a great way to meet lots of people in our community. For those of you interested, Hype Wayne County is hosting a Learn to Play Pickleball Night. This is not just for young professionals. This is a networking event. It will be on July 30th at Clear Creek Park at 5:30 p.m. If you're interested, just reach out to me and we'll make sure you get the waiver forms. But we're really excited about this opportunity. I know I'm really excited about learning to play pickleball this year. Also, Hype Wayne County will be hosting their first meeting on August 19th at 5:30 p.m. at Van Vliet Insurance. If you're not a young professional, we still would love you to encourage your own coworkers and friends to attend this meeting. This will be the kickoff to Hype Wayne County. Of course, the Chamber Farm Tour is coming up on August 27th at 6 p.m. at the Barn at Helm. Tickets will be on sale August 1st. And as you know, this is a great event hosted in our community just to learn a little bit more about agriculture in our community and what a big piece of our economy that this is. I need to give thanks to our sponsor, First Merchants Bank. Every year they sponsor the business education luncheons, and we are so excited to have such a big crowd today for this luncheon. First Merchants is a huge community supporter. And now I will hand it over to Peggy Sinova from East Central Indiana Small Business Development Corporation. Peggy?
Thanks, Roxy. Oh, I think we're not in the wrong slide, are we? That's okay. That's okay. It's fine. We're ready to go. Today we're going to talk about marketing your small business, and I imagine many of you have lots of expertise that I hope when we ask for a question, you'll add it to the chat so that it's more of a conversation and less of a lecture. I have been presenting this to my 4th grade granddaughter a few times to get the wrinkles out, and she told me that I needed to try to be a little bit more enjoyable and less yawning. So that's my goal today. This is the next one is just push on through it if you would, Roxy. I'm the regional director at the East Central Indiana Small Business Development Center, where we help businesses start, grow, and flourish. So we're all the way with every small business, and SBA calls a small business any business with 500 or fewer employees. So I think that we can help most businesses in Wayne County. I'm the former owner of Straight Status Incorporated, which was an advertising specialty company. I love to read and learn new things. I enjoy networking, so this pandemic has been a real problem because it's not the same seeing you through this lens as it is one-on-one. And I love to iron. Let's see, is anybody in the chat box going to tell me that they like to iron as well? Because I find it great to have a clump of clothes when you start, and when you get done, you have this beautiful presentation of things you're ready to wear out. Oh, someone hates ironing. Well, it takes all kinds, doesn't it? And actually, ironing is the only domestic chore I enjoy. It smells wonderful. It does, doesn't it, when you're done? I like that starch smell too. So I'm glad you're here today. I hope it's more enjoyable and less yawning. That's my goal. So the marketing truth that I know, and that is people do business with businesses they know, like, and trust. Those are kind of the key that I go back to everything I'm doing in marketing. Is this going to get me closer to having my prospective customers know, like, and trust me? So keep that as an underlying fact as we go through this. The handout that Roxy shared with you is really for you to use as we go forward. It's an outline of what we're going to talk about. So you can use it to take notes, or use it in the future, run 10 copies and have 10 plans. That would be great as well. Oh, Roxy's fixing the document for you.
I'm fixing the document for you, Ed. It should work now.
Okay.
If you have problems, let me know.
So our goals for today is to describe your target market. And maybe that audience has changed, so it might be a good time to take a look at who your target market is. And then determine your USP, which is your unique selling proposition or your unique selling point. What is different about your company than those that you're competing against? And then use branding to increase sales. A little bit of talk about branding. And then with that sheet of paper and the things that we've talked about, you should be able to create a marketing plan. And usually we talk about an annual plan. And I don't think that's a problem to go ahead and create 12 months out. But we also are going to need to be very agile right now, because the changes during COVID, as you know, the first stage was no one was going anywhere and buying anything. Everything was online, and it really did hurt local businesses. Then the second stage was some openings, some out there. And then the third stage, which I love what Wayne County Chamber did when they were having the full opening with their parade, and it's really here, but that is increasing of local purchasing. But what will be the new norm? I'm sure many of you are asking what's going to be the new norm for your business, and what's going to take us forward, because we really don't know. I wish that I could tell you, today we're going to talk about the new norm and this is it, but I don't think any of us are that great at predicting. But it's more important than ever to create a plan. But as I said earlier, we have to be agile and able to change that plan. So how many of you already know who your target market is? If you'd put that in your chat, if you have a great target that you know you're going after, I would like to be able to see that, so that we can talk about that as we go into the target market part of the talk. I got crickets here, Roxy. That was my attempt at being more enjoyable and less yawning. But it's not like when we're in a classroom and I can call on the people that are making eye contact and not call on those that are hiding from me. So let's just go on with know your target. Oh, here we go. We got some. Chamber has two audiences. They're business members and the community. That's good. Young families who want piano lessons for their kids. That's a great way of saying what you need and an exact target. Older adults wanting lessons. Parents of girls in grades K through 8th grade, community donors. And Mary has a broad one, anyone who had anything to do the care of another. Let's just keep looking at that as we go forward. So the next slide is know your target. And has your target changed over these last few months? Has there been changes? And this is a good time to think a little bit about that. Then the exact parts of your target are knowing the age. So I see a lot of people saying seniors and those saying children. So you'd know your age of who you're trying to reach. Are they male or female? Are they single? Are they married? What's their income? Are you searching for someone with luxury income, or are you more middle of the ground? And then the vocabulary and tone that you're talking with people. As you talk to a 14-year-old, your words are a little different than when you're talking to a senior citizen. So that vocabulary and tone are important. And that's where we like to think about creating an avatar. And I think I have an example of that here that I pulled off of the internet. And I like just the middle of that slide says, you're going to name your avatar. So you're going to go after Elizabeth, who is a piano student. And that would be their age and what gender they are, if they're married, if they're not married, if they have children, and where they live. And why would you want to know all of that? Because that kind of tells you how you're going to market to them, right? You're not going to market to a senior citizen the same as you are to a teenager. But you may have more than one target. What you need to be certain is that the target that you identify with and that you're investing a lot of your marketing dollars is the one that's most profitable. And that gets us to our unique selling proposition. It's the identity of your company and what sets you apart from the rest. I came up with a local one, which I think some of you might know and some of you might purchase from and some of you might not, and it's got a lot to do with targeting. And I'm talking about the secret ingredient. I think I am their target. I'm someone who is of a certain age, and I like to dress with a little flair, and their products make me feel special. And they give me personal attention. They might even know your name when you walk in the door. Every purchase is wrapped in tissue and it has a bright, shiny sticker with their name on it. It makes you feel like you've purchased a real treasure. And they have unique products that can't be found anywhere else. So I am their target, and they've done a great job at targeting me. Then there's the emotional selling point. Remember when I said people buy from people they know, like, and trust? It's really about an emotional message. That secret ingredient makes me feel special. All decisions are emotional decisions. Have you ever thought about that before? I learned that early in my marketing career, that people kind of make an emotional decision of what they want to buy, and then they back it up with logic rather than the other way around oftentimes. So when you think about the last time you bought a car, was that a logical decision or was that an emotional decision? And think about the emotions that went into that. You were creating a lifestyle. You were creating who you wanted to be in the world when you're buying a different car. And that model has a lot to do with that emotional touch. The next slide shows some words that might help you as you're creating your target. Do you want to be the best that there is? Is your product artistic? Is it innovative? Is it new? Does it save time? All of these words are things you might want to look at as you figure out who your target might be. And as you're marketing, thinking about what that emotional and unique selling point is for your business. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about branding. I love this idea, the difference between a Starbucks cup of coffee and a quickie store cup of coffee. Does anybody in this group really love Starbucks? Do we have any Starbucks lovers here? Did you miss it when you couldn't go in there anymore and you just have to do the drive-through? I don't see any lovers yet, but maybe they will come up. But what is the difference between that Starbucks cup and the quickie store cup? They're both coffee. There's a Starbucks addict here. Tell me why you're a Starbucks addict. What do you really like about that? And I see someone says an occasional Starbucks. Now think about what Starbucks has done in their marketing to make it feel, and Roscoe's is very much the same, different from the quickie store coffee. It's a luxury for me. I don't buy it every day, but when I do, it makes me feel like I've done a little something for myself. And I think that that's what Starbucks marketing has tried to create, a thought of exclusivity and luxury. And that's why they can charge $2 to $3 for a cup versus the 89-cent quickie store. It does taste good. You know, it's got to deliver as well, but they can get a higher profit margin because of their targeted marketing, I believe. So when you're thinking about your brand and what are you trying to say about what you're selling, think about how Starbucks has put themselves in a different lane than the quickie store. So the next slide is about, why do customers choose you? Why do you think that customers would come to your business rather than someone else's? And how can you find out about that? Can you send a survey? Can you ask 10 of your best customers? Can you think about whether it's the location? Again, I had some tutoring from my 4th grade granddaughter, and I asked her why she would choose a particular store. And she said, because it's closer and it has a better bathroom. So I think maybe Starbucks has dialed into that because they're on every corner. Ed says he has a $5 latte. So see, Ed, I just need the cheap luxury myself. I go for the $2 coffee. There you go. But why do your customers choose you? And you could find out that from, like I said, a survey. You can make some phone calls. You can figure out why they're buying from you and then try to build on that success. We have another method of looking at your marketing, and I think many of you probably have heard of this. It's called a SWOT analysis. So you take all of the thoughts about your business and you divide them into 4 different categories: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I think many of us have been through this exercise a lot of times, but it never hurts to go back and revisit, particularly now that marketing is changing a little bit. Strengths, of course, are internal, and weaknesses are internal as well. So what's going on inside your business that makes you different from others? Do you have particular technology expertise, or is it a weakness when you don't have that particular knowledge and expertise? And then outside your business, what opportunities are there outside? How many people in your area want to buy what you are selling, in your demographics and all of that? And are you selling a luxury item that isn't going to be needed locally, and can you put that on the internet and sell it throughout the country? And then what are the threats that you're facing externally? And I think we're all kind of working on threats that are there nationally and internationally with this COVID, but those are the kinds of things you need to look at that are outside. Someone's asking me, how do you select who gets a survey? That's a really good question, because if you're doing a scientific survey, you probably need to hire someone to do it. But if you're trying to select that avatar to who you're really targeting, you might say, okay, let's look at our clients and our customers and see who are the very best, who come back once a month, who always are willing to buy the highest price item, and find why they're buying from you, and then try to find someone that looks like them. So if they are 40 years old and they live in a 10-mile radius, who else is 40 years old, male, and lives in a 10-mile radius? So to do a scientific survey is very difficult. To do a quick, what do I want to know about my customers, you can kind of find out how to do that on your own. There's lots of ways to do it, but I think the best way to do it is the way that you can do it today. If you're waiting on perfection to tomorrow, and you can do good enough today, do good enough today. There's another analysis that isn't as popular as SWOT. Back to the chat here. Amy says, at Kicks 96, we visualize Mary, 38. She's female, mom, and 38 years old. And that's I love the fact that you have your avatar down to who you're selling to. That's great. This pestle analysis is kind of a new, at least new to me, idea when you're considering all of the outside parts of what you're selling to. And you can look at what the political atmosphere is. What's the economic atmosphere? What's the social atmosphere? Technological, environment, and legal. Just think of all of those things that are really affecting your market and who you're selling to. And what we're trying to do is figure out that target and who we can best sell what we're selling to. We're up to competitive analysis. Who is your competitor? And how do you know? And why are you uniquely placed to solve the problem? Why are they going to come to you? And what makes you better and different? I marketed to orthodontists for a while and was in a location where I was talking to an orthodontist and we were looking at competitors, and she said that she really didn't have any competitors. And I reminded her that orthodontics was really a luxury and that I didn't think anyone was going to die of crooked teeth. And so her competitor was maybe putting in a swimming pool or going on a luxury vacation, because the parents might want to invest in that rather than in orthodontics. So everyone has a competitor, no matter how tightly targeted you think you are. What makes you better and different than the other person that is trying to buy from you? Think about that. That's your unique selling point. We're also going to talk about pricing. And the most important part about pricing, in my mind, is that at the end, after you've sold your product, you have a profit. You've got to keep that in mind at all times. And that's really by measuring all of the expenses of your business and looking at all the costs. And that pricing will be determined on your branding as well. Back to the Starbucks Quickie Store coffee example, the branding allows them to charge a little bit more, or a lot more in that case. And then what is your competition charging? We have lots of clients that come to talk to us about starting a business and say that they're going to be the cheapest. They know that they can undercut the guy down the street and therefore get business. But the problem with that is there's a real race to the bottom. And again, if you look at this pricing strategy, you've got to make sure that what you're charging is going to allow you to have enough profits to sustain your business and to grow. Pricing is a really deep and thought-provoking idea, and I suggest that you do a lot of studying before you decide exactly where you're going to fit in the pricing strategy. Then we're going to talk about potential marketing channels. Who are you going to reach, and how are you going to reach them? Is it going to be an email or online marketing? Are you going to have exhibits and events? Are you going to be advertising? Are you going to use direct mail? Are you going to use sponsorship? I would just kind of like to highlight here is direct mail. I can remember the day when I would open my mailbox and have 20 catalogs looking for me to buy from them. That doesn't happen anymore. You don't get nearly as many direct mail pieces as you once did. So when you do, oftentimes I think you take a look at it and think about what's there in your mailbox. So consider direct marketing. It can pay off in the end. You need to determine, why are you choosing that option? What's the best? Why are you choosing to go with social media rather than the newspaper? All of those things. What are the advantages of the option, and how will you measure the results? Measurement is really important. Cost is important, and it's got to be in your budget. Back to the idea of demographics, if you were selling to a 14-year-old, you probably wouldn't be advertising in the newspaper. But if you're selling to a 65-year-old, you probably wouldn't want to advertise on TikTok. So then we're going to assess the potential marketing channel some more. Again, match the marketing method to your target market, as we talked about TikTok or the newspaper. Newspapers are still alive, and people that look like me read them often. If you're not trying to sell to someone that looks like me, you might not want to advertise in the newspaper. So think about what your audience is looking at. Which are they most likely to respond to? Create a short list of 4 to 5 or maybe even 2 to 3 options that you're going to reach out to. And if you're going to use social media, you really need to go deep rather than shallow on that. So I wouldn't choose more than 2 or 3 platforms to try to reach. And the idea behind all of this marketing is that you've got to test. If you spend $1,000 on a particular kind of advertising, and you receive $20,000 in sales, that's a great investment. If you spend $1,000 and in fact you were undercutting your profit line and you lost $500, that's not a good measurement. But it's all an experiment, and you keep trying and improving every time you send out or reach out and determine what's best for your particular market and build on those successes. So with marketing, we need to set goals. Do you set goals with your marketing? Do you sit down and say, we're going to try to reach 500 people, and out of that, what percentage do we think will buy from us, and how much is it going to cost to do 500, and all of that? I'm looking over here in some of the comments. Oh, somebody's going to share the link with their board members. That's great. Makes me even more nervous if the board members are going to be watching. So set your marketing goals and know what you're going to do. Then we need to talk about your marketing budget. Oftentimes, I think people think social media is a free way to go. But if you think about how much time social media talks, it's not free at all. And if you are investing, some small businesses I talk with don't want to invest in a website. They say they will build their business on Facebook, and sometimes that can be successful. But many of you know that Facebook is owned not by you, but by Facebook. And I always say you're building your building on rented ground, and it can change at any time. So you need to think about what's happening and how much money and how much time you're spending on that budget. So I think that I've talked kind of fast, and I'm going to be done a little early, Roxy. But what are your action steps? What's next? And then I think I have a little shot of the worksheet, and that's really where you can take some of this stuff we've talked about and do a deep dive and try to figure out the answers for your business and what steps you need to take next. And what are you going to do this month, and what are you going to do next month? How are you going to measure your success? How are you going to change as you go forward? And Roxy wants to know, how do you know if a goal is realistic? This could be an interactive answer. If I get somebody else to say, how do they figure out whether a goal is realistic or not? I suppose if I thought that we could put on a workshop and bring in 500 people, we, Indiana Small Business Development Center, that usually, unless we spent a lot of marketing dollars, would not happen with 500 people. And the reason we know that is in the past, we have had a hard time bringing in 50 people. So I think part of what a realistic goal can be set on is what your history is. So you might take your best efforts and say, okay, we're going to increase that by 10 or 25% and shoot for that rather than set your goal so high. Alfredo says he sets SMART goals. Alfredo, would you share what, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, would you share with us that what you define as a SMART goal? I think we've all talked about that before, but.
Yeah, specific, measurable, obtainable, realistic, and timely goals for each thing. So same thing with your marketing. The hardest part for me is I get these ideas and I taught myself how to implement them. So when you set the SMART goals behind it, it kind of reinforces you to take action.
I think that's great. what forces me to take action is that little platitude I talked about earlier with a good plan executed today is better than an excellent plan executed tomorrow. But those measurable goals are really important. And I really appreciate your sharing with that.
Peggy, we're getting a lot of questions about how nonprofit leadership can really use marketing to maybe attract to stakeholders, but also understanding their why. What would you say to nonprofit leaders?
The nonprofit boards I sit on, we always go back to our strategic thought process. What is the goal of what we're trying to achieve? And then hopefully that goal is so emotionally, people want to be an emotional part of what you're doing, and find the people that agree with that why. Can you comment on that some more, Roxy? What do you think about that?
Well, I think a lot of marketing is set to sales. Mm-hmm. And I think it's sometimes tricky to think about why your marketing is important, even if there's not a dollar amount coming in. Any advice for nonprofits who are maybe using marketing to spread awareness?
And to change the world, actually, is what they're trying to do, right?
Right.
So if your goal is so big that you're trying to change the world, that should be a pretty important why for you and your board members and those that are selling. I'm a part of the YWCA of Central Indiana, and part of our goal is eliminating racism and empowering women. Now, I don't know who couldn't be into that why. And so we are really trying to do trainings and have book clubs and have facilitators out in the community building that thought. So I would say that while you're not trying to gain monetary, well, of course you probably need some monetary too, but when you're trying to lift the spirit of those around you, you need to have a clear message of what it is that you are working towards. I'm a Rotarian, and we have the 4-way test. There are 4 things that we work towards, and most meetings we recite that 4-way test so that we're reminded time and time again. So I would say a really good thing for a nonprofit to do is to figure out what that why is, and then find a way to reiterate that same message over and over and over again. Kind of like Starbucks has reiterated the message of, we're a third place, we're the third place to go, home office Starbucks. That's what they started with. And they had that strong mission in the middle of where they were going to go. So that nonprofit is probably trying to change the world or save a part of the world, feed people, all of those things that really come stretched to the heart. But if you're trying to do all of the things, it's hard to target in on what your main mission is.
Great advice. Lindsay brought up a great message in the comments that nonprofits and businesses use the station to reach potential customers, volunteers, donors. Lindsay or Amy, either one of you want to talk about some of the services that you may offer to our local businesses?
Well, to nonprofits, we we offer Free Plug Friday. So it's a way for a nonprofit to get out any event that they're having or fundraiser that they're doing for free at no charge to them. And we put it over all 3 stations on Fridays. So that's a great tool. If you haven't used it, utilize it. You can submit your event on any 3 of our websites. So kicks96.com, 1017thepoint.com, or 953thelegend.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So I would add to that, probably crafting your message to be able to use that free advertising is probably the most important thing you can do, because that sounds like a valuable chance to relate your mission.
Are there any other questions for Peggy or for the group in general? We have a lot of people in here who have a lot of experience with marketing in various different ways. What questions do you have for the group?
While you're thinking of that, I'll just let you know what this slide is all about, what we do. We do one-on-one consulting. We have a great ability to help you with your financial projections. And that financial projection piece is so important when you determine your pricing and where your brand is going to sit on that. We have lots of demographic reports. So if you're trying to determine how many 40-year-olds in Richmond go out to steak dinners on how many times a month, we can tell you that. We also have lots of business and industry reports. If you're going to start a flower shop, would you like to know about where that flower industry is going? We've got information about that. And then we also help network, and we're great at preparing loan packages. That's one of our levels of expertise. And then we have other services as needed. So there's how much does that cost, you say? It's no cost to our clients because they've already paid for that with your tax dollar.
Well, hearing no questions, I'm going to pop back to the other PowerPoint. If you still have questions, feel free to jump in and add those. I do want to give a thank you to Peggy for speaking. The Chamber and the ISBDC East Central Division have partnered together to make these monthly learning sessions an opportunity for you. Normally, these would be in person, but of course, we're living in a virtual world today. So it's been fun to pivot these events and create them for the world we're living in now. So thank you, Peggy, for such a great job. If you're on the call, drop a thank you to Peggy in the comments because we're so proud to partner with her and excited to have her here. And last but not least, well, I shouldn't say last but not least, I have 2 more slides. I do want to give a shout out to First Merchants Bank again for their sponsorship. We are so excited to have them, and I know that their event is coming up in September. They'll be hosting one of these luncheons for us. But before we get to September, I do want to announce our August luncheon, which is a follow-up to this session. So if you're here today, we want to make sure you get registered for the Branding 101. Peggy will be back again to talk about branding and how you can actually hone in on your skills there. Peggy, do you want to talk more about that?
Well, I think that branding is a piece of marketing, and so that's why we start with the broad marketing. But everybody has a brand, whether they know it or not. And I always say that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the front of the room. And I would like for you all to return and maybe think about branding and come back with some ideas and questions and examples of how you are branding, because I think if we were in person, we would all be learning from one another, and there would be a lot of that is more difficult when you're doing this virtually. But branding is just a bedrock of every business and every organization. As you said, the nonprofits also have to have a brand of who they are. So even if you don't have a business, if you think about it, everybody has their personal brand. And branding is just part of where we are today.
Thank you, Peggy. The information for this session will be going live this afternoon on our social media, and we'll be sending out a reminder to all the participants. But before you leave, Judy's reminding me in the comments to have everyone take the survey. So I'm posting a link to the survey right now. Give me just a second to pull it. We want you, before you leave, to take this survey to let us know what you thought about this session. So don't leave until you click. I just posted the Google link. It's obviously towards the end of the week. There we go. Well, no, it's still doing it. Give me just a second, team.
While you do that, Roxy, I will say that if you would like to engage with the Small Business Development Center, you can go to isbdc.org and then the location of East Central Indiana.
Let me pull this link. It's giving me a fit right now. There we go. Now I've posted the survey for today's Marketing 101 session. Take about 2 minutes, fill out the link, the survey, and that will give us feedback so we can plan to make these better for you and make sure that the content that you're receiving is important to your business. Thank you all for being here today. We're really excited to have you, and I look forward to seeing you next month for Branding 101. Thank you to First Merchants Bank, and of course, thank you to Peggy for being such an amazing leader and such a great presenter for our group.